Hello my friends! I just wanted to bring you another sneak peek into Battletech Revised, and this time we're going to be talking about Quirks and the spider and Dekker, I suppose, and the lore. So there's a lot to cover here. Let us begin with, so the reason why Dekker dies more often than other characters is because by default he starts in this thing, the spider. And the thing about the spider is, it's meant to be, if you look in the lore, it's meant to be this mech that, with 8 jump jets, it can just fly across terrain and obstacles and hide behind things and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, if you sit there and read Sarner, it will tell you that the spider has these high quality medium lasers, not that that seems to make any sort of appreciable gameplay difference. And the hardest, you know, the best and most advanced tracking computers can't track the spider when it's flying around and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, it doesn't have unreasonable armor, but actually the standard armor configuration means that even a medium laser hit will pretty much penetrate any region of the thing. Etc, etc, etc. You know, they meant this mech to actually be a pretty good reconnaissance / harasser scout with fantastic mobility. The problem with the lore compared to the gameplay is, in the gameplay what happens is that the spider takes a shot and then it explodes. And most players either ditch it immediately, or if they're determined to use it, then what people tend to do is they take 4 jump jets out and then they put armor in. Or maybe they also add a couple of small lasers or something along those lines. That's what they do. And then they carry on from there. So, what to do about the spider? How do we keep it like the lore wants it to be, but actually be useful so that players will actually want to use it like the lore says that it should be used, right? Now, Quirks were something that have been in the tabletop for a long time, and HBS introduced all singing, all dancing Quirks for like 7 mechs, which were totally, well, some of them were totally overpowered. And they weren't very flavorful, let's be honest. They were just, they were just sort of like, you know, oh, the Annihilator has lots of guns, so let's give it more gun damage. Right? It was kind of that level of addition to the game, and they never went and did Quirks for all the other mechs. So in Battletech Revised, what we are trying to do, and I think it's possible, but there you go. I'm the one doing all the designing, so it's good that I'm optimistic about coming up with a great solution for everything. I want to use Quirk system to actually make you, the player, actually play the mech as the lore wanted you to play it. So, the first example I have of this is a completed design working in Battletech Revised, is the spider. So what have we done to the spider? So, at first glance, this looks like a meta build, in that we've gone from 4 jump jets, from 8 jump jets to 4, and then we've added some armor. And that's what the vast majority of players forced to use the spider, they do this. They remove 4 of the jump jets, so they still have pretty decent jump capability that will get them most of the evasion tokens, and will generate heat that the spider can cope with, because 8 jump jets actually runs so hot for the spider that you can't actually jump at 8 jump and use your medium lasers for more than 1 turn before the thing actually shuts down, which is kind of pointless. So this is what you guys do. Or what some people do, and I have done as well, is they take all the jump jets out, they add a couple of small lasers, which we still need to correct mech engineer here. We're still working on the mech engineer side of things, so that you can actually fit 2 small lasers in here as well. You can see all the critical spaces taken right now, so we're still working on that. But that's more of an overall problem with Mech Engineer, which we'll solve at some point, not with the actual design of the mech itself. But anyway, dev note to one side. What a lot of people do with the Spider is they add 2 small lasers. So you have 2 medium lasers and 2 small lasers, and then you have more or less full armor with the jump jets removed, which is fine. You can do that, and the Spider becomes actually a somewhat tougher and more usable mech, and great. And the Op 4 is still stuck with the one that has 8 jump jets and explodes when you just look at it. And also, if it jumps and fires, then it overheats. So, how can we bring the lore to you? Because, you know, you're a player with a brain, right? So you're not going to run the stock version unless you're doing the stock challenge or something. And very few people sort of do that because of the problems with stock mechs, really, in a game where you're outnumbered 8 or 12 to 4. So we've added a quirk to our Spider, and what it does is, for some reason the description is not appearing here, but the description is actually there on the item itself. That's funny. Well, anyway, we're still working on a lot of the polish and so forth. But what it does is the Spider now can only carry 4 jump jets instead of the usual 8, and they are twice as good as standard. That's what the quirk does. So 4 jump jets in the Spider is now the equivalent of 8 for any other mech. And that is the special quirk of the Spider. So what that means is that you can run this mech now in a more or less meta way, but it also actually sort of fits more into the lore in that you can actually jump it around as the lore intended. You can fly it across the map using the power of 8 jump jets and harass people with it. You can do that, and you wouldn't be shooting yourself in the foot to do it. You can actually play this like the lore intended. But you can still change it around a bit if you want. You could take 2 jump jets out and just have 2 jump jets in it, which would be the equivalent of 4 with the quirk, and then add small lasers and more armor and so on and so forth. Or you can simply just add 2 small lasers and a little bit more armor. But what we've done is we've just generally improved the Spider, but we've also said, look, no one plays the Spider with 8 jump jets. Nobody does that unless they are deliberately restricting themselves to stock. So the flavor of the Spider is lost. Once people get it in the mech lab, it just becomes generic light number 371 with 4 jump jets, armor, and a very mediocre weapon set. How do we, how do we give you what the lore intended, i.e. a mech that has this incredible jumping capability, but also have it not be total garbage? And this is what I came up with. So now you can have the Spider as the lore intended, i.e. able to jump 8 jump jets distance and harass people, and still actually have it in game terms have enough armor to actually be survivable. Like it would be in the tabletop. Because it's just so much easier for mechs to be targeted in the video game than it is in the tabletop. So we've added survivability that you might find in the tabletop anyway, depending on how you play the tabletop. I think the biggest issue with the tabletop, of course, is that you usually have a GM who is actually controlling the balance of the match and controlling the Op 4 and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of, at least in the games I play, there's a lot of role play going on and so on and so forth. And, people might not be able to target a Spider in a forest or whatever unless they're right on top of it, etc. There's a lot of hand-wavy, fluffy things going on. But the cold, merciless light of the video game logic, the Op 4 or you look at a Spider and it explodes. And when you have a Spider, the first thing almost everybody does, who's not forcing themselves to play stock for the sake of playing stock, is strip the jump jets out to give it some survivability. And so, you know, with that in mind, as the guy revising things, and knowing that we want to give every mech a unique, interesting, flavorful quirk straight out of the spirit of the lore, if not the letter of the tabletop rulebook, this is what we're coming up with for each mech. We're looking at the lore and saying, okay, the intention was that this thing would be fast recon, that it flies, that it would have an impact, and then be able to get out. And while it had light armor, it would be able to evade shots, so its EHP, its survivability, would be reasonable. And obviously in HBS's game, the survivability is not reasonable. The survivability is literally 1 turn. And so we've come up with this to give you choice, but also to not make it so that if you want to play with a mech that has that same flavor as the lore, you're not going to be punished for it. It's not going to be horrible to use this as the fluff, as the story intended. So I hope that with this handcrafted treatment, quirk treatment, each mech, really looking at what it was meant to be, we can add real choice and flavor to mechs, and we can also encourage you to play these mechs as if, you know, as the lore intended, but without that being a punishment. without it literally being a bad choice and you knowing that it's a bad choice. Now you can play this with that jump jet capacity that the Spider is famous for, and it won't be a punishment. Of course, and you can take some jump jets out and adjust it and add more armor or weapons to taste. So you still have that choice. But it's no longer mega optimal to just pull the flavor out of this mech. And by pull the flavor out of it, I mean literally just take 4 jump jets out, take it from 8 to 4, and then just be like, okay, now from here, I have something useful. This is now useful out of the box. And I also hope that this is going to provide more challenge, because the Op 4 is going to get this revised mech, which it's going to be just a better mech for them, which is going to provide you with more challenge in the long term. So this is where we are working from with the design philosophy of the quirks, and I hope to give this personal treatment from me with deep thought and insight to every single mech in the game. So quirks are not going to be like really safe, boring, oh yeah, +1 to attack, or -2 heat, or like +5% extra damage, or -5% lance damage, or +1 initiative, or whatever. It's not going to be just hordes of generic quirks just thrown in because that's easy to do. What I want to do is emphasize the lore aspect of the mech and actually make you use, make it so that using the mech in that lore role is actually not, in-game suicide. So that's it for now. Just another sneak peek talk on Battletech Revised. I hope you guys are getting excited for it. I have a lot of work to do in these designs, so I want to put as much thought and effort into this, into each mech as I have put into the Spider, so that you guys just have a really cool experience, and you can know that each quirk has been thought out by me plowing through the material on each mech and really looking into its intended role. Try and emphasize that kind of stock feeling, stock intention, without the mech actually just being a bad choice. Because, what's the point in having a bad choice in a video game? Everyone who plays is just immediately going to revise the mech to make it more survivable or have more DPS or whatever, and people build to a homogeneous meta when they get better at games. So this shakes that up a bit. You can remove the jump jets and give it more firepower and make it generic muck light mech, but you're missing out this time. It's not a benefit to do that. You might actually feel like you're missing out on something cool and unique about the Spider. And that's the feeling I want to create. So that is it for now. I hope you guys enjoy these short little talks. I hope that you will support me. And that is it. I will take questions in the comments as always. And I will see you guys next time.